Good evening. I've confirmed with our council that tonight's meeting and public hearings have been convened in accordance with Chapter 417 of the New York State Laws of 2021, as amended, which allow public bodies to meet and take action without permitting in-person public, access to meetings, and authorizes such meetings and public hearings to be held remotely by telephone or video conference call, provided the public has the ability to view or listen, and that such meetings are recorded and are later transcribed. Francine, as Planning Board Secretary, please confirm that the meeting tonight has been duly noticed, and please state for the record that such notice has been posted and published.
Yes, it's been duly noticed, posted, and published.
Thank you. The notice provided instructions for members of the public on how to view and participate in tonight's meeting. The public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's planning board meeting on TV and also online. This meeting is being broadcast live on LMC TV, which is channel 35 on Fios and channel 76 on Optimum. It is also online at lmctv.org. During this meeting, viewers can send an email to PUBLICQC. Did I get it right, Elizabeth? PUBLICQC.
It's correct. It's public QC at townofmamaroneck.ny.org.
Okay, with questions or comments. A transcript will be provided at a later date. Francine, for the record, please call the roll to reflect which planning board members are present tonight.
Ralph Engel,
Here.
Elizabeth Cooney,
Here.
Ira Block,
Here.
Sarah Dunn,
Here.
Ron Mandel,
Here.
John Cuddy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a quorum. In addition, those individuals who are present representing or on behalf of the town of Mamaroneck, please identify yourselves for our viewers.
Lisa Hockman, counsel to the planning board.
Robin Ichinsky, liaison from the town board.
Anthony Oliveri, consultant engineer to the town.
Elizabeth Atchison, environmental planner, town of Mamaroneck.
Francine Brill, secretary.
Thank you. To ensure that the members of the public can follow along tonight, I guess Liz, please confirm that materials to be discussed this evening have been distributed to the planning board members and have been posted for at least 24 hours on the town's website. So we can know.
I
Can you do that?
can confirm that. I checked the website yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
And I emailed all the board members yesterday yesterday or the day before.
Perfect. Thank you. So item 1 on the agenda is a review of the minutes of our prior meeting.
Ralph, for the record, if you don't mind, I just want to clarify that tonight's public meeting is being held pursuant to Chapter 1 of the laws of 2022 and Executive Order 11.4. That's just a change from the notice.
So
Okay.
For next month, please send me an updated version.
I will.
Thank you. So to the minutes, our last meeting was on March 9th. Has everybody
Ralph,
heard? Sorry.
The one point that I would note is it's an inconsistency, and I'm not sure I can resolve it. On the second page, the resolution shows the resolution seconded by Ron, yet the introduction indicates that I was the person that seconded the resolution. I just frankly don't recall.
I'm going to defer to that it's John Cuddy because that's put in there by Francine, and I'm going to assume she got it right since she listens to the tape. Unless, Ron, if you have a recollection, eyes, that would trump.
Yeah.
I don't recall. That's fine with me.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Something only a wee bit more substantive than that.
Okay.
On the call to order, the second line, it's chapter 1 of the laws, and I believe the L should be capitalized, of 2022.
Yes.
And
Okay, 'cause
below
somebody
that,
was here.
with respect to the motion to approve the minutes as a point of personal privilege, my last name is misspelled.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Actually, Ira, just to clarify, chapter 417 of the New York laws of 20, it's more wordy than it should be, but that was extended by chapter 1 of the laws of 2022, which comes after.
I was only pointing out that it said 202, that the last 2 was missing in the minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
It was not a substantive point, and I think the convention is that it's the L in laws is usually capitalized.
Yes.
That's true. Anybody have any other comments, corrections? Then as modified, can we have a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved, provided my name is correctly spelled in the minutes.
You want everything there.
What page was that, Ira? With your
Page one,
page 1, okay.
under minutes, moved by, left at the L.
Oh, yes, okay.
Second?
Okay,
Anyone?
yeah, it's correct at the top of the page, it's wrong at the bottom of the page.
Got it.
Second,
John? Thank you. All in favor?
There you go. All in favor, aye, raise your hand, please.
Thank you.
Opposed? Extensions?
Abstention.
Okay, well, please pick up the abstentions, sorry. Worse tonight. Okay, first item on the agenda for tonight is a special use permit extension, although the agenda says renewal, in connection with Pepe Porsche, 2500 Boston Post Road. Is anybody here on behalf of Pepe Porsche that, Liz, you can let into the meeting?
I just promoted John Crocco and Ann Klein, I believe, is raising her hand. So I'm assuming that that's a promote to panelist. Is that everybody?
I believe so.
Okay, who wants to present on behalf of Pepe Porsche?
I can do that, Chairman. Good evening.
Okay, good evening.
My name's Annie Klein. I'm an associate at Delbello, Donnell and Weingarten, Wise and Whitaker, here tonight on behalf of Pepe Porsche. As you know, the Porsche dealership is located at 2500 Boston Post Road. It's in the SBR district. And the special permit was originally granted in 2012. And we are here for an extension for another 2 years, which would be through and including February 28th, 2024.
Okay.
I'm here with Joe Crocco, our architect, to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Only question, I think Ira Block had a question about something, or maybe I'll just deal with it.
I am curious, I won't say puzzled, as to one, why we are entertaining the motion, let alone proposing to grant it, if there's a non-trivial element of regularity that has not been performed with respect to the property. And secondly, in light of a bit of history with that property, although the property owner and the applicant now have different counsel, which presumably would presage a smoother relationship going forward, I'm wondering whether it is appropriate to extend the permit beyond a period of time, full time, and rely on a termination provision rather than insisting that the regularity be performed and then entertain the application at that time.
And just to clarify for those who may not have the resolution in front of them, the irregularity has to do with legalizing dumpsters that are on the property.
Right, and providing the necessary fencing.
That is something that was the subject of some discussion previously, was it not?
The building inspector of the town has determined that what is being proposed here is appropriate. There has been no violation issued on the assumption that this is something that the property owner, or actually, I guess Pepe is not the owner, can remedy within a period of basically 30 days to apply and then to get it done. They have an architect here, Mr. Crocco, who should be able to get that done. The issue relates relates to the lack of the required fencing around the dumpsters. And according to the building inspector, subject to the condition which is in the proposed resolution, this can all be resolved. So I think, subject to what this board thinks, that we will be in a position to proceed since no actual violation has been issued. Otherwise, we're going to be in a position whereby the building inspector potentially will issue a violation, but this will avoid that having to happen.
If I may, point of order, did we not so long ago, have an application for approval belatedly of an amended site plan for this site?
What we have, and it should have been in your packet now, is a sort of strange document, which is titled Proposed Site Plan, but is not, in fact, ever been submitted as a proposed site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'm talking about, didn't we vote on is my memory bad? It well may be. I thought a meeting 2 or 3 ago, there was the discussion about the need for some additional submissions for an amended site plan to conform the site plan to what the actual conditions on the site were.
I believe we submitted a revised plan that shows the easement area and also the proposed area where the dumpsters will be. As I understand, and Joe Crocco can second me on this or correct me if I'm wrong, there is an actual permit that has been filed to move the dumpsters. And so when we spoke to Robert Wasp, he wanted us to show the location of the dumpsters and the easement on our site plan. And so we submitted a revised site plan on, I believe, March 22nd.
Okay, well, actually, this document is dated March 25th, so maybe you may have submitted on the 22nd. It got stamped on the 25th. But
Okay, yeah, I sent it in via FedEx, so it's probably a day delayed.
However,
if I may, just to go back a little bit, the last time we renewed, and I believe it was June of last year, there were 2 issues. It was the storage containers and the dumpster, which was originally shown where it says existing concrete pad. We filed for building permits for both the dumpsters and the concrete pad. The dealer subsequently asked if we could relocate the dumpsters to the location as they're now shown. We thought we could do it administratively. I talked to the building inspector and Rob Wasp, and we were working on it prior to this meeting, obviously, and then Mamaroneck got flooded and everything kind of came to a halt. So I just let it be. I couldn't get it done. So I figured we'd do it at this meeting and officially relocate it. So there is a permit. I'll amend the permit to relocate them, but that's pretty much where we stand.
Ms. Klein said something was filed. Is that the permit that you're referring to that you wish to amend the application?
Yes, there was a permit filed for it in the prior location. I will amend the permit to show it in the new location.
Okay, so was this a permit a request for approval of an amended site plan? Because that's not what's before us.
No, it was
no.
a building permit.
Or just a building permit,
Yes.
put the dumpsters where they're shown on what was submitted with the fencing, which is also shown on what was now submitted.
Yes.
Okay,
The condition in the draft resolution that council prepared has as a conditions, I guess I would call it a condition precedent to the renewal or the extension carrying out for the full 2-year term, that within 30 days after the approval, if it's approved, the initial approval, the applicant shall submit an application to legalize or regularize. And my question is, has that been submitted in one form or another and now needs to be perhaps amended or modified, or is that something that has to be done ab initio in the first place, subsequent to today?
according to the building inspector, when last I spoke to him about this, and there have been a number of short conversations, there was no application filed, which is why there's this provision in the draft resolution. So, if there was something filed, it didn't match what's on the so-called, what is this called here? Proposed site plan. So what we're talking about now is the submission of an application. If it's already been done, fine, it would be within 30 days, if it's already happened, to produce, to deal with the dumpsters and the fencing as they now are shown. According to the building inspector, it would probably comply with the town code that way. But so far as I know, and Francine, I don't know if you know further about this, there is no pending application for a building permit to do that.
I would have to look in the computer.
Okay, is that something you can do?
Mr. Chairman, let me be absolutely blunt.
Okay,
And if my memory is in error, I hope someone will comment on that, because it well may be erroneous. With respect to this property, there was a time in the past, as everyone on the board will recall, when we approved a resolution. I think, I don't remember now if it was a site plan or it was no, I guess it was a special permit renewal.
it's been the same.
And
Yeah.
we attached a condition to it that within some period of time for the permit to remain valid, the applicant had to submit some evidence. My word, it's not the word that was in the document, of a right to use a portion of the property being used that was not part of the record plat. Subsequently, a letter was submitted from the owner of the property contending, stating that the owner had acquired title to the questioned area by virtue of adverse possession. And let's fast forward. We got into Supreme Court, Westchester County, and the argument was made by former counsel for the applicant that the condition had been satisfied because a document that purported to state that the property was owned, or the applicant and the property owner had the right to use the questioned area, and that it was sufficient, the condition was sufficiently fulfilled by submitting the document, whether the document stated things accurately or inaccurately. The way this condition is written in the proposed resolution today, the condition is that within a period of time, the applicant submit an application. Now, I know I'm being hyper technical, but fool us once, okay, fool us twice, shame on us. I think there should be no question but that what needs to be done has been accomplished, regularized, before there is a full renewal or extension of the special permit.
Let me just say something and then we'll get comments from the rest of the board here, or from Ms. Klein if she wishes. And that is that the last sentence reads of the proposed resolution, failure to make such submission and or to immediately take such additional actions to the satisfaction of the town building inspector shall result in the immediate termination of this extension. And I think what you may not be focusing on is the additional part that is included in this. It's not simply to file an application. If the building inspector requires changes or whatever, they've got to be complied with immediately. That's where it reads. And let me just see, let's get comments from other board members and then let's open this as a public hearing. Any other member of the planning board have any comments on this?
Well, I'm confused, Ira. Do you want them to do a new site change application?
No, I would, given my druthers, I would propose that we pass this to the next regular meeting of the planning board, allow them to continue to operate de facto without a special permit. Wouldn't be the first time for this property, and require or suggest, perhaps is a better word, that they submit what needs to be submitted and action be taken by the building department if it's appropriately submitted. And that when we next consider the application for a special permit for extension for whatever period of time, there's no question but that everything that has to have been done has been done. I'd like
But
to.
is that actually consistent with what we've done with other special permittees? I'm thinking of the restaurant recently with the parking issue, and they had some garbage things that had to be moved and some blocks in the parking area. And maybe, I don't know if there was restriping. I'm just wondering about the consistency.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah, the Madison Avenue property, we adopted the same approach.
I mean, I certainly don't mind if they can be accomplished in 30 days and they can get it done. I don't mind it. The concern I have is what happens if we have to terminate?
Are you agreeing with me or expressing a different view? I'm not sure.
Well, I just, when we have these sentences that special permits will terminate.
Yeah, they don't automatically terminate.
They don't automatically terminate. What is the recourse? We don't evict people from the property.
There can be.
We don't have real teeth in some kind of, fine.
Well, there is though, because what there would be if there were no permit, first of all, it'd be an operation without one. And number two,
you're wrong. You're wrong about that. From the perspective of some people, it would be an operation without one. And from the perspective of others, the challenge would be made that the determination that the permit has expired or has been truncated is not a reasonable one, and it's subject to review under Article 78. I don't think we need that. It's just too easy to say, extend the permit for 30 days or whatever, and come back to us and we'll consider it anew when you've done what needs to be done, or just defer this for a period of time.
I think though that one of the things that the problem here, and that's why it's a 30 days only for submission, and that is that our building department is taking quite a while to issue building permits these days. And it is unlikely, that even if they filed a proper application tomorrow morning, that they'd have their building permit by our next meeting. It is from
Well,
what
if they don't have the permit, then they can't do the work.
I understand. So at this point, it will, extending it the way you're proposing, Ira, will not be possible for a month if the concept is they first have to legalize all of this before we can proceed. Furthermore, to my mind, and I think we'll leave this to the board to decide, they're just going to operate anyway because we're not going to close them down for this sort of thing, nor is the building department. And why not get this done? And we'll deal with it if and when they don't do it. My guess is they will. I
if
mean, what we just heard is that
if
they
I'm
may already have
understanding-
done so.
If I'm understanding you correctly, what needs to be done requires, apart from what's submitted to be regularized, requires the building department to review this and make a determination whether or not to issue a building permit to allow the erection of some fencing. Is that correct?
Yeah, except for the fact that the building inspector has already taken a look at what it is that we're looking at.
Ralph,
And it said with proper, pardon me.
Ralph,
Oh,
Ralph,
yeah.
there is an application, actually a permit for the fencing. Already
There is a-
in. There is
There's a
one.
permit that's already been issued?
There's a permit that's issued. It's just, if they're moving it and any bit, they have to just amend that permit now.
Well, it's not
Yes.
moving it. Most of it isn't there.
Okay. There is a
It's a
permit.
paper, it's a paper relocation. We hold a permit to construct a dumpster. We're trying to relocate it to where it's shown. So it's an amendment of the permit. Again, it may take more than 30 days, but we have a permit to build a dumpster enclosure.
Okay, but just not where it is you want it to be, or your client wants it to be.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
We can
Well, may I ask
certainly,
you something?
Yeah, yeah.
My question is, once you get the amended permit approved, how long does it in fact take you to construct the dumpsters and the fencing?
It's probably a one-day process to build this, maybe two. The bigger problem is availability of material today. So I can't swear on a stack of Bibles that all this stuff is available. It could be a long lead item at this point, but I'll find out more tomorrow. But you know, it can be built in 30 days if the material is available.
And the permit is good for how long?
2 years.
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah, I think that was issued maybe in August or September
Yes,
of last
August.
year.
August of last year.
So
Okay, yeah,
But not for the location where it's supposed to be now. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct. It's where
So when
it says
you-
existing concrete pad.
When you submit a request for an amendment, does the clock start to tick all over again a year from the amendment, or is it a year from last August?
From last August.
Because it would be an amendment as opposed to a new application.
Right.
So again, I wish I were more familiar with the site, but there are dumpsters on the property now.
Yes, there are.
But they're not, they don't conform to the town code because there isn't any fencing.
There's fencing only on one end of them. The rest of the
They're
fencing
not,
doesn't
they're not
exist.
fully, they're not fully.
They're not
compliant
fully enclosed, as the
with
code
fencing.
requires.
That's correct.
There's a permit that's been issued to enclose them, except it's to enclose them in a place where the owner of the property doesn't want them to be.
Right.
Right.
Is that correct? But where
Yes.
are those dumpsters now?
They're
They're not
exactly what is
the
shown
ones-
on what was submitted. You know, as you
They're-
know, I generally go to every site before our meetings, and they are where they're shown. But the fence that's shown on there doesn't exist except on one end of between the dumpster that's closest to the street and the street. There's a small piece of fence. That's it. The rest of the enclosure doesn't exist. That's the whole difference.
Except that they're not where the owner wants them to be. Is that correct?
No, they are where the owner wants them to be. Is that correct? Mr. Krakow? This is where they're shown, this is where they're supposed to wind up, right?
I haven't been to the site recently, so they're on wheels. They could have been rolled over to where they're shown. It's very possible. Last time I was there, they were on the existing concrete pad and there was one piece of fence facing the street.
Yeah.
So if they moved them,
As of a couple of weeks ago, anyway, that's where they were, because I saw them. Okay, let's have a discussion here. I mean, we have two possibilities being discussed. One is that we proceed with this the way it's written or somewhat modified in some form. The other is that we forestall this, let them proceed anyway, have no time limit, because at the moment, they haven't submitted anything. The only time limit would be the 1 year from August or whenever it was submitted, which is a lot more than 30 days. And, you know, it operates anyway. They're not, since there's no violation issued. And according to what I understand from the building inspector, we're not in charge of violations that's being issued. He is. He does not intend to issue one, provided that the condition here, which he's seen. Is that not right, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, he would be, the building inspector is the one to issue a violation. I sent this language to him to make sure that this is consistent with what he understands and intends, and that's what he said.
The other thing, Mr. Chairman, my understanding was that the town engineer and the building inspector considered it a minor enough change that it didn't require, you know, say like a site plan amendment. It was
Right.
something that would be an administrative type thing to deal with.
Actually, I didn't say anything because I forgot, but that's what they told me to.
Right.
So at the moment, let's have a motion to open the public hearing on this, and then we'll go from there.
So moved.
Okay, second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, public hearing is open. Okay, Elizabeth, do we have anybody from the public who wants to participate in this?
If there's anybody from the public that wishes to send in a comment, can you please send your comment now to publicqc@townofmamaroneck.ny.org.
There's nobody on Zoom with a raised hand.
If there's anybody on the Zoom that wishes to speak in the attendees, please use the raise your hand function.
So no response so far?
No response so far.
Okay. So we have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Aye.
in favor, please raise hand, say. Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
So, okay. Now, hearing is closed. We now have a proposed resolution. That doesn't mean that the language in it has to be adopted. It can be changed to, the resolution itself doesn't have to be adopted, it's a draft. So what is the pleasure of the board with respect to this?
Well, with the, may I make a comment with the paragraph in the resolution, that paragraph 8? They've already applied for the permit. So isn't it within 30 days for an amended permit?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I feel like I should submit an amended application.
Okay, that would make sense.
But would it be better just to say that to legalize the dumpster installation or location or something like that? Maybe not about applying for a permit.
Well, I'm not sure they can completely legalize it within 30 days.
I have a suggestion. My proposal would be to not take the full 2-year term for the special permit. Pick a period of time in which everybody believes it's reasonable that if the applicant acts with dispatch and the town building department or the building inspector acts with reasonable dispatch given the workload, the work can be accomplished. And I would use the conditional language that the applicant promptly take such action as is necessary in consultation with the building department to regularize the circumstance of the placement of the dumpsters on the property. And if that turns into a Chinese fire drill, then the permit will lapse 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, and we'll be doing this all over again. But at least to me, that's cleaner that we issued a permit, we had a condition, and in order to observe that the condition is actually fulfilled, we did not extend the full 2-year term. I think it's particularly appropriate. Again, this is not an observation about current council, but things that have occurred with respect to this property and the applicant in the past when represented by different council. I think.
Well, could we have that condition?
It's my personal opinion that if the town code requires the special permits and the town board delegates to us or requires us to act on them, there should be somewhat more adherence to an orthodox procedure rather than gyrations to let something go forward when there isn't compliance.
Liz, Cooney?
But
Oh, well,
Ira,
I mean, seeing that as there is no actual violation here, it would seem to me, I don't mind what Ira has proposed, but rather than having them come back, could the trigger be that at that point in time, if they haven't done it by X date, they have to come back. If they've done it by X date, the permit automatically continues through the full term.
Lisa, is that even possible?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one thing to write what the term is, but to say unless terminated sooner for failure to comply with the condition, I'm not really comfortable writing an either or term.
Okay.
Isn't this approach consistent? Isn't this approach consistent with what we did at with the Madison Avenue property?
I think so.
And if they fail to meet this condition, the building department can issue a violation, and that's the remedy. I mean,
Right.
I agree with that. It seems totally overcomplicated to have them come back. I mean, I don't see why we can't just amend this paragraph 8 to say that they have to file for an amended permit within 30 days and then let the building department handle it from there.
I second that.
I'm for that as well.
Yeah. I think that will suffice. It will be consistent, as John points out. And we do treat everybody or try to treat everybody alike, despite what may have been the history with other council. So can we have a motion? Well, we need some language now. That is done. What this reads now, again, I'm going to read it aloud. Within 30 days of the date of this resolution, the applicant shall submit an application to the town building department to legalize the dumpsters and surrounding barriers next to the existing one-story car dealership shown on the proposed plan, which is one we've been talking about. Okay, so as to comply with the town code. To my mind, that makes it pretty clear what has to happen and when it has to happen. Okay, it doesn't say anything about application. It doesn't say about amended. It just says it will do what's needed to legalize it. And failure to make such submission, which would presumably be an application for amendment for what was already done to the building permit, and or immediately, which is pretty clear too, take such additional actions to the satisfaction of the town building inspector, since he's the guy who issues the violations, we don't, shall result in the immediate termination of this extension. Personally, I mean, if somebody wants to change it, I think it does. What do we need to do?
Mr. Chairman, in essence, what we're doing, if we adopted that, what you suggested, is delegating to the building inspector the authority, in essence, our authority, delegating to the building inspector the authority to terminate earlier than, can I finish, please?
Yeah.
To terminate earlier than the full term, the special permit. Because if you're saying it's got to be done to his satisfaction, If it's not to his satisfaction, then the permit terminates.
Well, we can be consistent with the language and it shall result in a violation against the property, because that's actually true, that failure to comply with special permit conditions constitute a violation, you know, in pursuant to the town code.
Well, then I would suggest, I suggest something else. The condition should be that there are no violations issued against this property during the portion of the extended term with respect to the dumpsters. Because that's essentially the same thing. If the building inspector believes that the dumpsters aren't the way they should be, he can issue a violation. If he issues a violation, that terminates the permit. Is that a mechanism that works, Lisa?
Yeah, so the way I would do it is I would end this sentence. I would end a sentence, take such additional actions to the satisfaction of the town building inspector, period. Any violations issued against the property shall result in the immediate termination of this extension.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Does that
I'm good with that.
actually occur in practice? I mean, or
No,
Yeah, well, I mean, the violations occur in practice, but the
I understand,
termination
but
of the extension,
isn't
then-
it something that we would take up 2 years hence? That if they have a violation because they fail to comply with this condition, that would be a factor that we would take into account when they apply for an extension 2 years from now.
the only additional tool it gives the building inspector is they can then issue the violation for the, you know, for the dumpster not being legalized, and they can also issue a separate violation for
Operating without a special permit.
Yeah.
Okay, but, well, it's always possible that something else on the property having absolutely nothing to do with what we're discussing results in the issuance of a violation.
I suggested a violation directed to those
Yeah,
dumpsters.
I think-
attached
yeah,
to the
I think It
dumpsters,
has to relate to the dumpsters.
right?
Otherwise, it's not, to my mind, not fair.
Agree.
Well, Lisa, what are the automatic termination provisions that we refer to in the resolution? Termination requirements in sections 240, 64, and 65.
Yeah, there's somewhere that I don't recollect right now that in addition to the termination there, that failure to, and it may not be in those sections, Ira, that Rich had pointed out to me in another context, that failure to adhere to the conditions of a special use permit are tantamount to expiration of the term.
Okay, so.
I don't have that handy right now. I do remember that as something that we had discussed.
Fine, so if we use the language that's now been modified, and I think we get where we're going. I think we produce something which the applicant can do. So we haven't produced a condition that's impossible for them. And we can issue it subject to this, and if they don't do it, then as now modified, what will happen will happen. And yes, it's not the building inspector doesn't terminate the special use permit. The building inspector issues a violation that potentially terminates. And if he had to, suppose the building inspector had already issued a violation about this very same thing, we'd be in a position, I believe, Lisa, that we couldn't extend the special use permit at all. Isn't that the case?
No, you could extend it with a condition that the violation is remedied within a specified time.
Well,
Well, what we do is we would make the 2-year term retroactive to when it terminated.
oh, okay. Anyway, people, what do you want to do? It's been enough of this, I think. Lisa, can you read the language as it would now be with the changes that have been made so people know what they're potentially adopting?
Yes, before I read, did you want me to insert the word amended before application, or just leave it as application in the second line?
I'm not, I think we'll leave, And how about an application or amended application? So whatever it is the building department wants. it will be.
Okay. Okay.
May I ask Mr. Crocco a question? Do you know what your client wants? Mr. Crocco?
Wants him for what?
With respect
I'm
to the
not sure.
dumpsters. Is it?
Well,
is
this
it-
is what they told me they wanted, this location as shown on the plan.
Okay, so, and then you're clear that if that's the location that they want in order to comply with the town code, certain other steps need to be taken with respect to those dumpsters. And you have filed or will file or do such other things as the building inspector instructs you in order to do that. Is that correct? 'Cause this is
Absolutely.
this is effectively, in my judgment, this is falling to you because someone wants to change where the dumpsters are, you know, we're going round and round about this. And I've got to be in my bonnet because I have been.
I think that is.
Let me,
that is
Ralph, let me
irrelevant.
finish.
And in this case, no, because what is going on here has nothing to do with the past history of the property. This is what's going on here now.
I respectfully
Even
disagree.
though we're in court against these people at the moment in the appellate division. Okay, that has nothing to do with this either. That's a different proceeding about something else. We're now talking
but
about
that's
the
still going on.
extension of a special use permit, which will either be extended or not. So let us proceed. Lisa, please read the language that you would potentially have in it.
Within 30 days of the date of this resolution, the applicant shall submit an application or amended application to the town building department to legalize the dumpsters and surrounding barriers next to the existing one-story car dealership shown on the property plan, so as to comply with the town code. The applicant shall be required to make such submission and/or to immediately take such additional actions to the satisfaction of the town building inspector. Any violations issued against the property in connection with failure to legalize the dumpster as herein required shall result in the immediate termination of this extension.
Is that acceptable to the members of this board?
Yes.
Yes,
I would just
Yes.
say that to take such additional actions required by and to the satisfaction of the town building inspector.
Okay.
Yeah,
Grammatically, I think.
that's the language we had in the draft.
Yes, I've got that now.
Okay, Mr. Crocco and Ms. Klein, is that something that you think is reasonable and you can live with?
I believe so. Joe, are you able to get this amended application in within 30 days?
Yes, it'll happen in a
Right.
couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's no big deal to do the amended application.
I agree. Okay,
The
thank you.
the drawing is done. I just have to amend the paperwork in the building department.
Okay, can we have a motion to adopt this resolution as modified and just read to us by Lisa and modified a little further by the language from John?
so moved.
Second? All in favor? Please raise hand. All opposed? Abstentions? Done. Thank you.
All right, just for the record, were there any abstentions or opposed?
Oh,
No,
No,
No.
okay.
Joe? Joe?
Yes,
Call me tomorrow.
okay, no problem.
All right, thanks.
Will do.
Francine, who did you put in as the second?
John?
John Cuddy? Okay.
Next
Thank you
item.
all. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, you too, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item number 2 on our agenda tonight is 220 Hummocks Road, Wetland and Watercourse Permit Renewal. That's an extension too, I think, not a renewal. Isn't that right, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm promoting Tim Bartolomeo and I don't know if there's anybody else from the attendees list that's with 220 Hommocks Road.
Hi there.
Oh, good evening. Okay, Liz, you promoted me. Did you promote anybody else?
No, I have not. The only other person in the attendees list is somebody named John.
Okay, all right. No, I'm here representing Bomare LLC. The owner, Brian Martin, could not be here tonight. In previous presentations last year, the year before, Benny Salanitro was here. He had a conflict tonight, so I'm filling in for him. So what we're here for tonight is to ask for another year extension to the work at 220 Homics, which I believe you're all familiar with. We submitted an application at the beginning of March, and what we are hoping to what we're hoping to do is just to continue our work. I've submitted in the cover letter, I've submitted a list of items that remain outstanding, remaining work. Just to review, the work is on a parcel in an R50 zone. We had an approval in March of 2020 for doing a substantial amount of work, which included seawall work, dock, a gazebo, single-family dwelling improvements, garage improvements, a tennis house, pool house, tennis court, landscaping, tree removal, and all the infrastructure that goes along with that. So we've been working at it. The site has been coming along nicely. If anybody has been by the property, it looks very nice. Most of the work along the water's edge is complete. I'll say all of it except for the gazebo superstructure, which is underway. But anything that's within the reach of the tide has been complete. Seawall is in, the tidal wetland enhancement creation has been completed. It's been monitored. It's coming along nicely. Landscaping is about 90% complete on the property. There's some minor landscaping that's remaining. The swimming pool is in. The pool house is underway. The foundation is in. The superstructure is to follow. We'll be filing for a building permit in the next few weeks for the superstructure for the pool house. Tennis house is not started, but that will be coming soon. Again, in the next few weeks, we hope to file for a building permit. The tennis court work is underway. Garage renovation work underway. The septic system, which was part of the approval, has been removed from the work because of the new town sanitary line that has been installed on that road. That work, that sanitary line is complete. The house is not hooked into it yet.
I have a question.
Dwelling renovation work is underway. Okay, so with that, last year we were before you and we asked that we had an anticipated scheduled completion of fall of 2022. We believe that we still hold that schedule. Okay, so we're asking for an extension to March of 2023. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have one in particular, that this seems to be becoming a perpetual construction site. Okay, right? I mean, I've been at it now. Obviously, we all know there was COVID in the middle of this, and maybe still not over yet. But you say, you are planning to file applications within the next few weeks, maybe. Okay, the question to my mind is, how do we stop this from being, in effect, a perpetual thing? I mean, they've had 2 years to figure out what they want the pool house or the superstructure of the gazebo or so on to look like. I think it would not be unreasonable that we get some dates when these applications are going to be submitted that are reasonable, so that we can end this within the 1-year extension you're asking for, assuming it's granted, and that we're not here in March or April of 2023 having the same discussion.
Well, so I'll respond to that. As far as the delays, yes, COVID was a big part of this delay. What we're experiencing right now is supply chain delays. Supply chain delays on a lot of materials. Now, that does not address your point to your question. Okay, so you know that stated,
building and not applying for it.
correct, right? So you know, plans are underway. Okay, there's a lot of activity. The activity has been ongoing. It is a significant project, and we've come a very long way. The 2 structures that have not yet been filed for a building permit are accessory structures to the property. They're relatively small. Those things have not hit critical path and construction schedule just yet. That's really why we haven't filed for the application. Okay. Focus has been on the dwelling. Focus has been on the infrastructure. And that's really the reasons for that. Now, I think your request is reasonable. The fact that I don't, you know, the owner's not here tonight. I think if you can, you know, I'd be happy to look at some dates and provide them to the planning department as what we would anticipate filing building permits. We have architectural drawings that yet to be completed. We have engineering drawings that yet to be completed. So that stuff still is taking time. We have to get a handle on when those will be done. So you know, a few weeks, yes. But I'd like, if you want specific dates, I need to get back to you on that.
Okay, so would you
Can I
say?
ask,
I'm sorry.
there's a note on the 2019 plans concerning rock removal and the fact that blasting would be used. Have you actually had to blast rock? Has that been completed? If not, you know, what do you envision in the future?
There has been some incidental rock removal for utility installation. There has, but it's been relatively incidental. It has been incidental and it's complete at this time.
So the estimate at that time was that there would be 100 cubic yards of rock removed. Is that more or less consistent with what your experience was?
It's way less than that. I would say in the order of maybe less than 10%.
Okay, so are you saying that the rock removal has been completed?
Correct.
So I think that's what you were after, right?
Yes, and was there any damage to any surrounding premises?
No.
No. Okay.
Let's have a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Done. Okay. Elizabeth, if you could find out if anyone's going to join us in the public.
If anybody from the public would like to comment on this application, please use the raise your hand function. And if anybody who's watching would like to submit a comment, they can do so by email at publicqc at townofmamaroneck.ny.org.
While you're waiting for that, does anybody on the board have any further comments or proposals in connection with any of this? Other than the fact that the proposed date for which the application was made, and it's a one-year extension request, would be March 11, 2023, in the last paragraph of the draft.
As a mechanical matter, the site plan has been approved.
Right.
All that, at least it seems to me, all that's involved here is that the work that requires the
Wetland.
and watercourse permit, for whatever reason, hasn't been completed within 1 year period of the original permit, nor is it anticipated to be completed within the further extended 1 year period.
The extended period's expired already.
Okay, so it hasn't been completed. I presume it's not, work hasn't been going on during the period of time. Or maybe it has been going on.
Work has been going on, but at a lesser pace than anticipated due to both COVID and supply chain issues. Okay, so
what you've just acknowledged is that without a permit, in effect, you've been conducting work that requires a permit.
Well, we don't know where the work, we don't know
No,
whether.
not necessarily.
we have all our,
No,
we're,
I'm, Mr. Chairman, I'm responding to your concern that this may go on, ad infinitum.
let me respond to that. Listen, the owners here are this is their house that they're trying to move into. They are anxious to get in. It has been a long time for them. You have to think of their perspective here. They want to get into this house. They're frustrated with the supply chain issues. They're frustrated with the length of time that this has been taken.
I don't want to interrupt you, but you're preaching to the choir. I'm addressing the concern that the chair raised, which is that, someone's dragging their feet, and if we say extend a period of time.
But there has been no dragging of feet.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm suggesting to the chairman, most respectfully, that if within whatever period of time we extend it, if we choose to extend it, it's not accomplished, then instead of a further extension, it's a new application. And while there's no permit in effect, the work shouldn't take place, or the building inspector should. This to me is the same. It's the same issue in a different wrapping than the one we discussed before, and I think it's reflecting a much broader issue that perhaps we ought to discuss among ourselves, and perhaps our representative to the town board may convey our concern. But I don't think, for my vote, whatever reasonable date the applicant requests for the extension, I'm fine with. And if someone
It's
doesn't.
1 year from the expiration of the other.
I'm fine with that too. The supply chain has been simply impossible. No matter whether you have a small project or, a multi-story building development, it's impossible to get things. You can't get tile, you can't get refrigerators, you can't get pipes. And so I think that they're only asking for 1 more year is very, very optimistic.
So make it 18 months?
I don't think we can do that.
You can't. The
It's 1 year.
code limits it to 1 year.
So let's do it for 1 year, and let's.
I don't even think there's much to discuss. Every project has had problems.
Ralph, let's vote.
Yeah, I agree also. I think we should just go ahead and vote, and, the supply chain's understandable. I mean.
Let's vote and everybody hope for the best.
Right. Can I interrupt before you vote? There are no comments in the attendees or in the email.
Thank you. Okay, I think though, maybe we can just suggest to the owner that the fact that I think from what I hear, it's going to be extended for a year tonight, doesn't mean that'll happen again in another year. And hopefully, everything will work. And if it doesn't, you know, we're all aware of supply chain problems. We're all aware of COVID, unfortunately, and we'll see what happens. So at this point, I guess we need a motion to close the public hearing. We didn't do that.
So moved.
Second,
In favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. A motion to adopt the resolution that we've seen it in draft with a date of March 11, 2023, which is 1 year from the expiration of the prior permit.
So moved.
Second,
second,
In favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, next item on the agenda is Majestic Glass and Mirrors, 2423 Boston Post Road.
Ralph, if I may, for 1 minute, Lisa, the last paragraph of the resolution we just adopted from your draft, the word therefore, it needs to be correctly spelled in the last recital.
You're remarkable at your catching over stuff. Well done. Thank you.
See it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now this is again a public hearing on a special use permit extension.
Okay, there's only, sorry,
Nobody here.
there's only one panelist left. And I don't know if he is for the Majestic Glass and Mirror or for Village Square. So
I think it's the Village Square, John from Village Square, I think. If Henry's not here, there seems to be nobody here from Majestic.
Yeah, it would normally be Henry, right?
Yes, should be Henry. He was sent the,
Okay, Lisa, let's just get to practical stuff. From what I understand, there have been no changes in at all relating to the use or anything else with this premises. Do we need to have an applicant present at the hearing? If nobody objects to anything, can we proceed anyway? Or
You do not, yes, the applicant has the right to be here and to present, but the board can take action, and assuming that all the submissions are complete, which would need to be the case for it to be on tonight, then no, the applicant need not be here.
Okay. So what is the view of the board, the concept of proceeding with this even without the applicant? We have the application, we have a proposed resolution.
there are no violations.
And nothing.
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, but can I ask a stupid question consistent with the stupid things I've been saying earlier?
Nothing stupid about it.
The last permit expired almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. You know, I feel like I'm sitting presiding over a moot court when it's supposed to be real cases.
I read that we have a problem with respect to how this stuff is followed up. My understanding is that the building department has now a computerized list of when these things expire. What happens, my understanding again, I guess Francine, you can tell me if my understanding is wrong, is that the building department sends a letter to people saying that their special use permits are expiring and they have to come in and renew them. But there's no follow-up of any kind. Is
they
that
have
correct?
been, a number of people have been sent notices. And if they don't answer, they do get a summons to appear in court now.
They get a violation for.
They do get, so violations are issued sometimes. Okay, I mean, what you're saying, Ira, is here we have a case whereby no violation presumably has been issued. This expired quite a while ago. And this is, I think, a matter of procedure. And we have Robin here. And I think that is something, Robin, that you might look into. Because if we're going to have a 2-year statute, which is what the statute is, right? When special use permits expire, something has to happen. And it's the town, not the planning board, that has to deal with it. If the special use permit expires and nothing happens on the part of the person, the holder of the special use permit, and nothing is happening on the part of the building department either. So that's in your jurisdiction, not ours.
With great respect, the analogy I can think of is the town establishing a permit system for parking in the lots or meters and hiring somebody to go out and give violations, and no violations are being given. So why bother to have the permit system? It's a rough analogy, but it seems to me the shoe fits.
I'll tell you personally, I wonder why we have some of this special use permit system at all.
Well,
But
that's
we do.
a whole other question.
Okay.
Or
and-
why it's a 2-year term
Yeah,
if there are no violations.
Well, it's a 2-year term, I think.
it is a 2-year term.
We're supposed to make certain findings, and you can't assume that all those findings remain in effect over the passage of time. So the 2 years, I suspect, was a way to have an ability to look at the circumstances that warrant the issuance of the special permit.
Robin,
I still think the turnaround, I think it's just
Go ahead.
too soon. I think 3-5 years would be fine, or 2 years the first time they come back and it's fine, and then give them 5 years going forward.
Well, Robin, you're muted.
I don't
Robin,
see
you're
any
muted.
reason- I don't see any reason why we can't vote on this. And then
Well, let's have our town liaison have a chance to comment.
I know, Ralph, that you would put forward the idea that the suggestion that we not require renewals except in circumstances where it appears to be warranted. But right now, this 2-year statute for the special use permit, it expires and you say nothing happens. Is that because there is no provision in the law for something to happen? Or is there a provision in the law and it's simply not being implemented? Because those are two different things.
So, Robin, it's the latter. Operating,
It's the latter.
conducting the business that requires a special permit in the location where they are. It would be a violation of the zoning code to conduct that business without the required special permit. Who enforces that? The code enforcement officer.
Right. I think maybe that's something that that the town administrator should be notified of, because that's something that would come under her purview. If the laws are already there, then the town board, the function of the town board, I think, would be to amend, correct, or create the laws. But if the laws are already on the books, I think it might be, and the question is implementation. The town administrator may be the person to whom you want to direct your comments. And if you don't get satisfaction through that, you could come back to me.
I think it's more a question of, it seems there might be some impracticality to the implementation. And so if these laws can't be implemented, then maybe the laws need to be written differently. I think that's what the suggestion is.
Well, why can't the laws be implemented?
Because it seems like there may be administrative limitations in enforcing the law, whether it's personnel or other work that takes precedence. I don't know, but we've had, that question should be.
I think the problem is they expire on any one of 365 days of any year. If all the permits expired on December 31 or November 30th or whatever the date was, then all the people that need permits would know they need to get their renewals in time for that. And it wouldn't be a big Herculean task for somebody administratively to follow up, and you have a list of permits that have been issued, and then you compare that to the applications for renewal that come in, and you remind the people that didn't send them, or you issue violations, or I don't know what. But the problem is, if I was an operator of a business in town that required a special permit, I think I might come to the conclusion that what the hell, why do I have to worry about it? Nothing happens to me if I don't do it. And when someone says, hey, you need to do it, okay, I fill out the form and I spend a little time and have a little fun before the planning board, and I get my permit.
Sounds like an administrative process.
Well, if there was a penalty or an extra fee that was assessed, if someone didn't do it timely, that probably would remind them to do it also.
Yeah.
If they were motivated financially to to file it on time, they probably would do it. But like Ira pointed out, because there's no enforcement or penalty, there's really no incentive to do it timely.
But there's no reason why they have to expire on different dates. You could, when you first issue a special permit to an entity, they could pay an amount that's a function of how much of the remaining permit period is there. So if they issue it in November and it expires in December, they don't pay for the whole thing. That's just, seems to me, that's just an administrative issue. Just like, can you imagine what the town clerk would do if everybody's permit for Lot A expired 1 year from when they first applied for it? It couldn't be enforced.
It would also be difficult to hear all these public, all these special use permits all in one shot, on our agenda. We would be here for days.
There's no way we could do it. Okay. I mean, there are, I think, 60 or so commercial properties, not all of which require special use permits. But if half of them did, this would be a very long meeting.
So what is the penalty?
There isn't.
There is none.
There's no teeth in anything.
So if let's say the town building department or wherever it is sees that the permit, special use permit hasn't been extended, they send out a notice. Is there a violation? Is there a fine levied? Nothing at all?
Yeah, there are violations. I don't have it open right now. If Rob were here, he could speak to this with specificity, or Rich Paul Carey. There are mechanisms to issue violations, which can result in fines and court appearances. But it doesn't seem to change the fact that many of these come in very late.
And invariably, all we do is then when we extend it to include the period of time where the permit had lapsed. So you'll have some people who only have an 18-month permit, or others who will have a 1-year permit, and then they have to come back.
But it's not just this. I mean, if you go back to what we dealt with before for Pepe, right? Those dumpsters were not where they were supposed to be for an extended period of time. The surroundings weren't there either. There was no violation issued. The only reason this came up at all is because of the renewal of the special use permit. And then there was an inspection, and the inspection showed this. I mean, another possibility of things is just having a more regular inspection schedule, not only, for the commercial properties altogether. I mean, we've had occasions, think of this, Robbins, before your time with this, but when we had Trader Joe's, which had walled off its emergency exit. Okay, we don't know for how long. It only came up when we came upon this, when they had to come back for their special use permit, and we found an exit sign pointing to an exit that didn't exist.
You're just finding a good reason to allow to the continued renewal of the special use permits, because it requires people to come in front of you.
Well, yeah, but it would be nice if they weren't the planning board that were doing the building inspections.
Right. Right. Well, I'm happy to pass this on.
Okay.
I think things have gotten better since we got the computerized system of tracking these things. Before that, it was all in paper, and it was really difficult to even find all of these permits, let alone, manage when they were due. But I think there has been an improvement in that. And I think, as we improve our building permit management systems, that, and we find all these and get them, into some sort of, digital calendar, that things will get easier every year.
Yeah, then there can be a follow-up date too. If the letter goes out on date X and there's no application within 30 or whatever it is days, I don't know how long before the permit expires the letter goes out. Actually, Francine, does the letter go out when the permit expires or somewhat before that?
Goes out before.
Okay, so is there some sort of a standard number of days before where you try to get this letter out?
It's between Rob and myself. Sometimes we miss it. It just falls on the calendar, unfortunately.
Happens.
Luckily, I have found a number of ones that had never been given to me from 20, they're like Staples. I never knew Staples had one until I had to look something else up.
Well, if you remember, we had Acura that worked for more than 20 years after its permit expired.
Because
Robin, I'm not suggesting that these businesses should pay extra, but the way in New York City, the way it works is there's an enforcement mechanism, right? So violations could be issued, which obviously there's a penalty associated with that. But then when an applicant files for a special permit renewal, for every year they file late, there's like a escalating scale. So if currently the fee is $100, let's say, if you file a year late, it's $200. You file 3 years late, it's $500. And so it motivates applicants to file timely every time, they put it on their calendar, in addition to potentially getting a letter from the town.
That's an interesting
Good
idea.
idea.
I mean, again, the objective is to keep these businesses, flourishing. So I think sending a letter initially would be the right thing to do. But again, I think, money makes people move faster.
Well, what you're talking about can be included in that letter. That if you file by whatever the date is, the fee is, as in your example, $100. If you file subsequent thereto, it increases. But the town would have to change the town code as to this to do it, because those fines are not in there. Or there's probably an amount, a filing fee for a special use permit with no, or special use permit or extension thereof, with a fee, and that's it.
You just said there was something, not the thing that Ron is suggesting, but there's something. Do you know where that is, Lisa?
Yeah, it's in chapter 106. 106.55 is penalties for offenses. And then 106, the preceding one is existing violations preventing the issuance of other permits. That's 106.54.
But that's different. That's a different issue. That's
Special permit.
But
that's a little different.
It is different. It's not the suggestion that Ron is proposing. This basically just talks about what happens when a notice of violation is issued with respect to a property for failure to comply with any section of the town code. And the town code requires renewal of these special use permits. So on that basis, violations can be issued.
Lisa, what is the filing fee for a special permit renewal or extension?
I don't know. I have to look at the application. Francine might know that. Francine, do you know?
What is the filing fee for this?
To renew, $150.
All right, so the easy way to.
Brand new is $300 and the renewal is $150.
Okay, so the easy way
Problem
to.
being also though, if it gets a violation from this office and it goes to court says, and they say they're putting in an application,
They dismiss.
nothing happens, it gets dismissed.
Right.
Seems to me the easy way to do it is on a renewal. If you file before the end of the period of your initial permit, it's whatever the filing fee
But
is.
it has to change in the town code.
Right, but if you file a month late, it's twice as much, or 125%. You file 2 months late, et cetera. That would give the incentive.
Well, you treat it like it's a new request.
I think that's the other way. Right, you file, it's a renewal if you file on time.
That's good. But what happens, what we've seen happen then, if you did that, it would be 300 for the first 2 years, and then 6 months would pass before somebody really the one, so it'd be 300 for the next 2 years, and there'd be 6 months in there where, unless there's a violation issued, nothing happens.
If we made it a supplemental fee, does that have to get adopted by the town board?
Yeah, I think anything that involves fees and charges can't be unilaterally imposed by the planning board.
No, we can't do that.
Oh, we can't do it.
I know that.
Not us, Francine.
Nope, I can't do it.
Do we have another item? Are we gonna deal with this item now?
Yes, I think we should. So at this point, does anybody have a problem with extending? Even though we have an applicant, we have no applicant present. Why don't we open the public hearing first?
We did, didn't we?
No,
I thought we did.
We did? On this one?
no,
We didn't?
No. So a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? None. Okay. Elizabeth, anybody? Presumably unlikely, but not impossible.
If anybody would like to speak on this issue from the attendees list, please use the raise your hand function. And if you're watching us on LMC TV and want to send in a comment, please submit it now to publicqc@townofmamaroneck.ny.org.
Inundated?
No, we're not getting anything.
Okay. So a motion to close public hearing, please?
Oh,
can I just ask a question?
Sure.
This expired in October of 2020.
Yes.
So what are we doing? Are we giving them a retroactive special permit and then they have to apply again?
The resolution proposes that it will expire in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's 2 years.
okay, that's fine. But somebody should let them know.
Who seconded it? Anyone?
Somebody
Second?
second the
Oh,
motion?
second.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of closing his hearing? Have we voted? I don't think so.
Yeah, that was just done.
Oh.
That was
That
done,
was it.
okay.
Everybody,
And a motion to adopt the resolution that we've seen a draft, of which we've seen a draft.
So moved.
Second,
Let me just look at it quickly.
Aye.
thank
in
you.
favor?
Paul,
Fine, yeah.
Opposed?
Oh.
Abstentions? Done.
Francine, who was the second?
Ron,
Pardon?
Who's the alternate tonight?
Sarah,
Oh, Sarah is, okay.
Okay. So next item is Village Square Bagel, 1262 Boston Post Road, another special use permit extension. And we do have an applicant, I believe.
I just promoted John.
okay.
There. There. Is there anything you want to say in connection with this application?
Just that we're renewing, we're in front of the board renewing our permit. We've been in business in the town since 1991. We have made no changes inside, no changes outside.
May I ask you, since we had some discussion about this, if your special permit expired in April of 21, why is it that you didn't apply promptly after that expiration for
Well, that was pretty much in the middle of COVID, and we were just trying to keep our business alive at that point. We were under a lot of New York State regulations asking us to close our dining room. We lost about 60% of our wholesale business, so we were just trying to keep alive.
So,
Did you get a letter? Did you get a letter from the town?
I don't recall.
but are you saying that but for those extraordinary circumstances, it would have been the normal course for you to calendar the expiration and to seek to promptly apply for a renewal?
Well, I assume I would have received a letter from the town and we would have acted upon the letter.
But if you didn't receive a letter from the town, it might not have occurred within your own system to know you need to do it?
That's probably true.
I think it's probably true of most of the local
If
commercial.
there were a significant financial penalty for not doing it timely, would that perhaps change your view about whether you needed to follow it yourself?
Should I have a comment on that in my own
You want
benefit?
to? It won't come back to haunt you.
I don't think that that's fair to the applicants, if you want my opinion.
Because
The permit's issued for 2 years. If there are no violations within the 2 years, it's a very short amount of time for a business to have to reapply. It's a pretty onerous process to get the mailings together, 15 copies of plans, 15 copies of every piece of the application. It's costly, and it's a haul in the paperwork.
John, do you represent the bagel store or the landlord?
The bagel store.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one way also, what you're raising is something else that might be looked into in connection with this, and that is, does a renewal application have to include all the stuff that the original one does? And if there have been no changes, would that not suffice? And I will tell you, the building department is now looking at a proposed different checklist than existed before for renewals, which tie right into this, on the concept that we don't really, and the building department doesn't really need all of this. And we have it because we have a town code provision that says it's got to happen. But the town can change that. And that's potentially, we're talking about trying to make all of this reasonable from the point of view of the town and the merchants and everybody who's concerned. And I don't disagree with you. If you have plans and making lots of copies and mailing things out, someone's a lot of work. I do think the notice part would have to be, because you got to give notice to people who have the right to object. Okay, just like the sign. Okay, but some of the other parts might not be necessary. And this is actually before the town the town engineer at this point. Not literally at this point, he's on vacation. But as to whether some changes in this might not work for the town building department as well as for the merchants.
Well, Francine, you provide the list of people who needs to be notified, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the checklists say that the applicant is supposed to provide that list. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The town provides the list anyway. So the proposed new form no longer says that. Okay.
So it's a question of the postage. The applicant could pay the required postage and the town could send it out.
I'm not sure that, how that works out. I think, I'm not sure that Francine is able to do that, or people in that office, but certainly, excuse me, Francine, you always provide the list, don't you?
Yes, the computer generates the list, which is much better than the applicants would get off, like the GIS. Sometimes it doesn't have a person's name on it. They're not, it's not correct. So mine comes from the tax roll.
Yeah. But I mean, what reason is there to require an applicant to file with us something that the applicant gets from us? That's the kind of thing.
Okay, so I suppose if the special permit period were expanded from up to 2 years to up to a larger number of years, you would have no objection, even if it meant it might cost a little bit more for 5 years than it costs for every 2 years. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
And less you need to do manually to make the application. If there were something that could be done on the internet and checking off boxes that say no change since the last time, et cetera, you'd be in favor of that as well.
Absolutely. And it would save your time. You wouldn't have to see us in front of you every 2 years.
We have nothing against you, but yeah.
Well,
okay. Why don't?
As a patron, I think I can say that over the years I've been in there, not too much changes inside. Some of the offerings.
Is that a good thing?
The bagel.
Very good bagels, yes. I think we'll probably all shop there. Okay. So at this point, how about a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor? Okay, opposed? Abstention? None. Okay, motion to adopt the proposed resolution.
So moved.
Second?
Should I ask for comments from the public?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we ought to do that first.
All right,
Yes,
well,
do you have anybody out
no
We
more
like his
attendees.
bagels too.
There are no more attendees, so I guess nobody else can comment from there. But if anybody from the public wishes to send an email, it's publicqc@townofmamaroneckny.org.
I assume people are not sending me texts on this thing. Nope.
Okay, Ira voted. Who's second?
I'll be second.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
Vote.
Vote in favor. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? You done?
Oh.
Okay, so see you at this point, because we do have to follow the laws it is at the moment. On or before April 10 of 23.
Put it in your calendar.
Whatever the requirements turn out to be, and maybe they will be different than they are now.
Let's hope.
Lisa, on the second line of the resolution, the word extended needs to be correctly spelled. It's an N, not an M.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have anything further they want to discuss tonight? We're done with the agenda. John, you're done?
Just a question. Are we Zooming for the month of May as well?
Is there a desire to do that since we have the possibility, or would people prefer that we actually meet in person?
Well, I would prefer the Zooming.
So would I.
Okay, if it sounds like Sarah would.
I agree.
John, Ron,
I'm okay with Zoom.
okay, so let's assume that we will Zoom one more time.
So May 11th?
Is that on its meeting?
Ralph, you made a reference earlier. Is the proceeding still pending in the second department?
Yes,
Gil?
yes. It is.
Is there a date set for an argument?
Sometime in the year of 3000 and some odd,
Yeah, not soon.
like everything else that's going on in court these days.
Is there
Okay,
anything to add about that, Lisa?
I haven't spoken to Bill Maker about that, so no, I have no additional information.
no, I spoke to Bill a few weeks ago. He has no idea of a date yet. There has been no date set.
Well, is it still,
It's still there.
I understand, is there still a reason why we might wish to have the appellate division decide that?
Yes, because we have a very strange.
Yes or no, you don't have to explain what it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Have good holidays.
Thank you.
Thank
See in a
you.
month.
Well, take care, everyone.
Night.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Keep it up with the
Good night.
bagels.
Happy holidays.
Good night. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you next.